So we just had a great monthly live review in Pro Feedback this past Saturday, and something dawned on me as I was going through a lot of these reviews and checking out the tracks and giving my thoughts and my opinions, and definitely trying to give each of the members a little bit of homework or some tips for what they can be doing to improve their craft for the next month's live review check-in. And I realized there's something that all of them can be doing and all of you here on YouTube should be doing that's actually even better than Pro Feedback. So, and it's free. You don't have to pay a dime for it. You can absolutely do this 100% on your own. And I think it's going to get you miles ahead of even getting monthly professional feedback from myself and the other pros on the platform, believe it or not. I still obviously think we have a really high quality service, but be honest with you guys, the most powerful thing that you guys can be doing is, number one, finding some relevant sync licensing music production libraries. Okay, so these are going to be the TV and film boutique. I recommend boutique, smaller companies, not necessarily the larger ones like the APMs or BMG or Universals. You can get lost in a sea of tracks there. Not saying you can't do well, but the boutique ones really can give you a much more hands-on approach, and some of them can actually get you distributed in larger catalogs anyways. But go find them. Go find the ones that you feel are a good fit for you and your music, or at least they have high quality production music in your style, or at least somewhere where you want to go. So if you're aspiring to become a trailer composer, you better go find some amazing trailer production houses, right? If you're wanting to be a minimal composer, you better go find like the top of the top production music library that has amazing minimal music and can serve lots of different clients with that minimal music. So whatever it is that you do, go find one or a couple of libraries that have catalogs that are open for you to go take a listen to. 90% of them do have an open catalog. A few keep them behind a password paywall, or not a paywall, but a sort of private membership area. But most of them are still wide open for you to go check out. Go find just one song, one production cue in your style that sounds better than what you can do, or at least it's on a level that you'd want to aspire to. So you're like, I would be so happy if my music could sound like this. And literally copy it, okay? So do not distribute it, do not release it, do not do anything with your music that would sort of get you in copyright trouble, okay? So I want to make sure you guys are very clear on that. If you take this advice and go rip off a song and send it to a library, that's on you. That's not on me. I am not telling you to do that. What I'm telling you to do is have an educational session for yourself in your DAW that you never distribute. You can bounce it, right? But you're never going to put this online. You're never going to give it to a library. You're never going to try to do anything with it other than to learn from a high quality piece of production music. So go find the track and put it up. Usually you're not going to be able to download it, but at least keep it up on your screen. Listen to it 20 times in a row. Take notes. What are you hearing? How long is the track? What instruments are in it? What are the qualities of the instruments? If you hear a piano, that's not descriptive enough. Okay, I hear a piano that is swimming in a lot of reverb. That's better. It's very dark. It doesn't have a lot of high, bright EQ to it. It's more on the mid and the low range. That's also really helpful. What are the drums doing? How impactful are they? Do the drums sound live? Do they sound electronic? What happens during the transitions? Is there just a reverse swell? Are all the instruments growing? What happens between the verse and the chorus? Is there a pause? Is there a break? Is there a low bass drop down swoosh sound? Are there glitchy sound effects? What are the overall dynamics of this track? Is it basically just one big crescendo growing till the end? Does it start really loud, get quiet, build back up into a big crescendo at the end? What's happening as this track is taking me along for the journey? Dive into what is the chord progression doing? Is the chord progression literally 2 chords going back and forth, just looping the entire time? Or is it 4? Is it 8 chords? Is it 16 chords? How long is this chord progression? How many bars is it? What's the tempo of this track? How fast is it? What are the lead melodies doing on this track? And how many lead elements are there? Is it just 1? Is there 2? Are they doing a call and response? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so you go into the weeds of this reference track, and basically what you're going to do is go create a DAW session with all the same sounding, if you can get similar sounding instruments, get a similar sounding piano, guitar, drums, et cetera, okay? And literally recreate that track, note for note, chord for chord, beat for beat, tempo for tempo, everything exactly the same. Again, do not release this. That would be copyright infringement. You can get in some big serious trouble. Don't do that. I'm not recommending you guys do that. The point of this is something that this is what I did early in my career. I should have done it way earlier in my career, but I did it probably 3 or 4 years into my sync licensing career. Just going through this one educational exercise, it can take you literally a couple of days, maybe a day if you've got a full weekend, a Saturday or Sunday. you're going to learn so much more than even getting feedback from me or from any of our pros or any tutorial you could watch, because you're doing it yourself. This is where true education, I believe, comes, is when you're doing stuff, not when you're watching, not when you're listening, even when you're getting feedback that can be helpful to push you in the right direction. But the actual education where you're going to learn how to develop a new skill, you've got to do stuff. You've got to click stuff. You got to tap on buttons. You have to actually make music with your DAW in order to get better at this, okay? What I learned, I'm curious if you guys do this, please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear how you guys go about with this exercise. What I learned when I did this a long time ago was I was working way too hard at putting way too many instruments and elements into my track. The track that I was studying was I think it was Kevin, was it Kevin Rudolph? Kevin Randolph? I can't remember his name. He was kind of like this, he had a moment where he was sort of like this rock artist that was collaborating with Lil Wayne and a bunch of rappers and stuff. And he had a couple of hit songs. Anyways, that was the style I was going to all the way back then. And I was like, all right, I'm going to literally rip off his track and figure out what he's doing. And as I was basically stealing from him and trying to recreate his track note for note, I realized how little was going on in his music, but just how amazing his samples were and how great the writing was. It was just a great riff, a great beat, right tempo, made you want to dance, just felt like it was all flowing just naturally and effortlessly. Whereas what I was doing with my tracks was trying to cram as much as I possibly could in there. Another snare, another lead, another this, another that, another synth. I got to do this. I got to add more shakers. Because my track wasn't basically written well, I thought to fix that, you just throw a whole bunch of new stuff in it, and then the track will magically somehow get better by the end of it. So for me, it just kind of like sat me down, it humbled me, and it made me realize less tracks, less instruments, less music. Actually, you want to focus on higher quality instruments and drums and samples, and of course writing. Samples and writing will take you so much further, not just in sync licensing, but just with your music in general, than worrying about throwing so much stuff into your soup that it starts to look really mundane and washed out and has really no character anymore. It just sounds really noisy. And that's a really common thing that I hear with a lot of sync licensing tracks that we review in Pro Feedback. So take this video for what it's worth. Enjoy feedback or don't enjoy feedback, with or without feedback. You should be doing this. And if you're fairly new to creating production music, you should be doing this maybe once a month. Like, this should be like a regular, consistent thing. One of my regrets in my career probably wasn't doing this at least once a year. Like, that should be your minimum. Once a year, you're going to compose an entire track that will never see the light of day. You're never going to send it to a library, but it's basically for your educational purpose. It's going to make you better. And the other way you can think about this is imagine that you can go get trained by the best in the business for free. Like, you don't have to pay the composer of those tracks a dime to do this, okay? Is it technically copyright infringement? If nobody finds out about it, like if a tree doesn't fall in the forest, does anybody hear it? You know, pretty much technically no. Maybe technically yes, but again, be safe, be careful with this, keep it to yourself. This is not for anything else other than your own education. But this is something that I know if I had done this earlier in my career, like the first couple of months, and then made a consistent effort to maybe once a quarter, or at least once a year, up my game by learning from some of these amazing composers and literally emulating what they're doing, it would have immediately improved my production skills, my mixing skills, my mastering skills. You can also take this to the next level of like, what is their mix and their master sounding like versus what you're doing? A/B compare it and literally try to get it almost to the same volume if you can, same stereo spread. Is their low end more well-defined? Is yours a little bit more muddy? What's the balance of theirs? Is it more on the low end, more on the high end? You can really start A/B comparing your way to making a much better piece of music for yourself and a much better product for the libraries that you work with. And trust me, they will appreciate this because you're making a higher quality product for them. So whether or not you haven't been accepted by a library or you're already working with a library, there should be like mandatory homework for you guys to be doing on a consistent basis. And I wanted to make sure I made a video to share this with you. So thank you so much for watching. Appreciate it. And if you found this useful, I'd love to hear a comment from you below. Thank you so much.